Hello, I'm Jannarone, Editor-in-Chief of Exec Edge, here on the sidelines of the ICR Conference in Orlando, Florida. Very happy to be joined by Christine Schindler, who is co-founder and CEO of PathSpot. Christine, thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be here.
Great. So, Christine, if you would, just give us an overview of the company which you co-founded. Tell us what it's all about, where you're going, where you were, what's to come.
So PathSpot is a system for protecting anyone in food service from all things health, safety, and compliance. And essentially, it's a safety hub that covers every aspect of the health and safety ecosystem for a food service environment. That covers everything from hand washing to temperature control, expiration and waste management, and safety checklists and logs. There's so many components to these safety elements that are so mandatory for brands to successfully manage the operations that feed us every day. And our goal is to keep them all moving and make sure those elements are taken care of.
Now, if you would tell us, Christine, as a layman, I've seen signs say employees must wash hands and so on, but you're a biomedical engineer. So there's a lot more to it than that. Tell us about your background and how this came together.
I entered the food service space actually from the healthcare space. As you said, my background is in biomedical engineering and global and public health. I actually started my career on the research side of that world and spent time in the developing world working on medical devices that could be less expensive and more effective for obviously resource constricted settings. And when I got back to the US and was working in healthcare applications here, I just realized there were so many public health areas that could also benefit from low cost but medical tools to help with safety protocols. And one of them is these huge issues within restaurants. I mean, we read all the time in the news, people getting incredibly sick, hospitalizations, even deaths from these massive foodborne illness outbreaks that cost brands millions or billions of dollars, as well as create huge labor inefficiencies on a day-to-day basis. And with more and more expectations around health and safety and the general awareness of the public, I just realized that I could utilize that healthcare background and use it to help support this very important ecosystem from a safety perspective.
Great. So, Christine, tell us a bit more if we can dig into the HandScanner solution and how that works.
Absolutely. So the PathSpot HandScanner was really our flagship product. We realized that over 89% of foodborne contaminants, according to the CDC, enter into our stream in restaurants directly from poor hand washing practices. And you mentioned those signs earlier. I think it's crazy that the best practice solution we have is employees must wash hands before returning to work, when we know this is making employees, consumers, and individuals sick. And almost all brands, have a requirement, an SOP. You have to wash your hands once an hour, every 30 minutes, in accordance with FDA standards. But there's no way to really encourage, incentivize, or make sure that's happening well and effectively. And so we invented the PathSpot HandScanner, which is a device that allows employees to put their hands underneath, flip them over, and instantly see if they have invisible contamination on their hands that could make someone sick. I mean, it really takes less than 2 seconds. And then we take all the data from those scans and we give it to management teams so they can go online and see who's washing their hands, when, how effectively, and tie that back to those SOPs and compliance metrics. We also use the hand wash as an active time. We showcase important food safety information, like if anything is out of temperature or about to go out of expiration, right while employees are washing their hands. So what used to be 20 seconds of essential dead time where you're just standing there looking at the wall is now active. You're getting food safety information, you're ensuring that the compliance is up to date, and we do all of that to build a culture of safety for the brands we work with.
Christine, you've got the wheels turning here. So obviously we all went through COVID and lockdowns and wearing masks. Have restaurants come to care more about these issues than they did, 5 years ago before all this happened?
I think I've been incredibly inspired always being in this industry because health and safety was always at the forefront of teams' minds. We started this before the pandemic because we recognized that there was a need and a desire to elevate safety protocols. That said, I think the education of the general public and of team members has really become heightened. People are aware of the transmission vectors of illness in a way that never existed before. I used to say to people when we got started, you need to wash your hands for 20 seconds, and everyone would be like, 20 seconds? That's a long time. No one says that anymore. And I think both team members and customers are looking for signs of health and safety. One of my favorite parts of working through this process, and obviously it's been an incredibly challenging time for us all, has been individual team members at restaurants that we work with coming to us and saying, I feel safe coming to work because of this product. I know that my brand has my best interest at heart because they're investing in health and safety tools. And that's been really exciting to see across the board.
Now, we talked about the HandScanner solution, but this is just part of a broader suite that you're developing, right? Can you tell us more about some of the other parts of the offering?
There are so many components of health and safety that have to be upheld on a daily basis to get the food that you eat in front of you, whether that's at the grocery store or in a restaurant. And it comes as a surprise to a lot of people when you realize, checking the temperature of every refrigerator every hour, or making sure that all health and safety checklists are filled out with the corrective actions in compliance with HACCP codes. It's for our general health and safety, but it's a lot of work. And so what we really do is we work to digitize every single component of the health and safety process. Now that includes sensors that ping with the appropriate temperature at all the right times to make sure that's taken care of. It includes labeling equipment to help ensure that food is processed in the right way and that it goes through the proper expiration channels at every stage in the value chain. And it includes the ability to do all your health and safety checklists on a digital app to make sure it's consistent across the board. And then we roll all this into one, as you mentioned, safety suite that can have a hub for every single piece of that. So at every level in the organization, and when you're preparing for those challenging audits, you know in real time what all those different components are. And we find that not only does it protect against the big loss, the potential risk of a store shutdown or a mass outbreak, but also day to day creates massive labor efficiencies that save time and money and protect the bottom line.
Great. And now when I'm thinking about your potential client base, can they be large and small? Could it be a mom and pop restaurant, or could it also be a multinational company? Tell me about the range you can span.
Safety is really unifying in this industry. We all have to abide by these policies in order to protect, and everyone is really uniquely, wholly responsible for this in a way that has to elevate each component. So we support really across the value chain. We support packaging facilities, farms, and production areas. We support cafeterias and day-to-day operations in office spaces or schools. We do every aspect of restaurants, from small businesses, franchise organizations, major sit-down chains, all across the board. We also protect grocery and their chains. So you can see how quickly there's so many different areas to this value chain. But what's really compelling is when that data all comes together. You can actually see incredibly interesting trends, and based on anonymized features, we're able to identify factors that could protect and elevate the industry as a whole by combining this information together. For example, we'll use machine learning and data analytics on our hand scanners to identify where contamination may have come from based on the signature pattern of contaminant. Maybe it's your tongs that you're using that are passing those contaminations. And we can use that across the industry to be able to showcase, this is the pattern of tongs that's causing contaminant in your store, which might be the same as tongs carrying that contaminant in a grocery store.
This just makes me wonder, you're kind of flying blind without having anyone like you helping out. If something goes wrong, you have no idea where it came from. Is that right? I don't want to be negative here, but if you're not being helped by someone like you, things could go pretty bad and you would have no clue where it came from, right?
The Food Safety Modernization Act is all about how can we as an industry become proactive when it comes to foodborne illness outbreaks. Right now, the industry is incredibly reactive. We're responding to what's going on, or we're guess and checking, or hoping for the best. And when I talk to brands about their food safety experience, those are a lot of the words that people use, right? Oh, well, I hope that it works out. I pray every day that this doesn't happen. I'm up at night wondering what's going to occur. Our goal with digitizing the system is to be able to create one method of knowing for sure that everything is cared for across all of those different health and safety components, tracking that and identifying it and elevating it through a system of alerts and dashboards, as well as our team being a consultative resource for protecting against food and safety issues in real time.
This is mind-boggling, actually, how much you told me about what you're doing, but can we just look further ahead in the future, maybe? 5, 10 years out? can you do even more than you're doing now?
Absolutely. We every day are talking to our customers, and that's how we've created the suite that we've developed here, that I'm talking about today. We started with hand washing. Teams would come to me and say, Christine, we used to have nothing around this, and now we're selecting how we deploy our field teams. We're selecting how our managers operate on a daily basis. All of our trainings have been redone because of the hand washing solution. Can you also do that for these other 10 safety regulations and components in our store? And I would go in and look at it. And some of the binders were this tall, with things that they're filling out every day for their safety regulations. And so we're constantly adding to that. We're reviewing where are more contaminants entering the store, what are other risk areas, what are things that the FDA and the CDC are putting out that can elevate our process. And then we are creating digital and tech-enabled solutions for those issues and areas. And so all of those pieces are something that we are constantly monitoring, evaluating, and seeing how we can make the biggest safety impact possible.
All right, well, this has been terrific, Christine. So much to learn here, and I can't wait to see how your company develops. This has been Christine Schindler, who's the co-founder and CEO of PathSpot here from the ICR Conference. Thanks so much, Christine.
Thanks for your time.